It's another day here at the Comeback Team Studios. This is your host, Bek Lover, and I have a guest that I've been trying so hard to get on the show. She's an activist. She's a part of the At the Well Ministries. She's also one of the founders of Jesus Matters. You've seen her all over the airwaves. You've seen her on television. You've seen her on social media. She was supposed to be on my show a while back. Unfortunately, there was an attempt on her life. And I have the brave, the strong, the loud and fearless Bevelyn Beatty. Welcome to the Comeback Team. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank God. But I'm happy to see that you're doing okay. How are you, Bevelyn?
I'm doing a lot better. A lot better.
You know, I saw on the news what happened to you, and my Adam's apple went into my stomach because I've always had this fear that something might happen to you. This is a very volatile time in our country.
Yeah.
And we've never been more divided. And you're out there fighting for what you believe in, fighting for what you believe to be the truth and the correct way. And some people don't feel the way you do. And they've literally, there was an attempt on your life, Bev.
Yeah. And you know what I think is so crazy? The experience I had for me was that the kids who stabbed me, they were all young Black kids who were coming from a Black Lives Matter rally. And so these kids were motivated by BLM not to, unite people or all of this rhetoric that they scream when it comes to Black Lives Matter. None of that mattered when it was time to address these kids and correct them. They came outside with empty bottles and knives, and they were on the wrong side of town. You could tell we was on the nice side of town. So they looked like they popped out like sore thumbs, right? And to experience that for me, it helped expose what I already knew. You know what I mean? It's like on one minute we want to feel sorry for a certain community, and Black Lives Matter and social justice. They need this, they need that. But when are people going to address the fact that these kids are raised to be savages and animals, and that nobody's safe, not even people that look like them? When is that going to be addressed? So, for me, it confirmed a lot of what my fight is for. And it really set aside the excuses that people try to bring my way. We got to understand them and their circumstances. No, there's no understanding for you taking a knife and stabbing someone. It's just, there's no understanding there.
Bev, if I may ask a little bit, just so, because maybe not everyone knows the story, and this happened in D.C., correct? Washington, D.C.?
D.C.
And you were there right before the election, right?
Right after the election.
Okay, so this happened right after the election. But you were down there for a while. You were going back and forth a lot to D.C.
Yeah, I had been down there like a week before for an event, and then right for election night, we drove down because I live in Jersey, so I'm only like 3 hours away. We drove down just, because the Proud Boys were going to be there, and I really appreciate them because when I was in Chaz, they protected my life while I was in that area. So, I was like, all right, well, for election night, let's connect. We'll watch the election together and just kind of do something social.
But wait, white supremacists guarded a Black woman's life?
Oh, yeah. And guess what? The founder, I guess he must be an Uncle Ruckus because he's as Black as me.
And this, so there's so much I want to get into. And I want to get into a little bit of this stuff because I think it's important that we obviously talk about this with everything that's going on. I want to finish talking about this incident, and then I want to backtrack. I want people to know who Bev is. I really want to know about you. And then we're going to catch up to speed. But since we started with what just happened to you, because it just happened, and thank God you've recovered. So can you kind of maybe give us a description of this? How did this just happen? You came across these children. Basically, they looked like kids to you? Like teenagers or what?
So the interesting thing is when we were at Harry's is known in DC as a conservative restaurant, pub, bar, eatery. You know what I'm saying? So that night, the elections was going to be at Harry's, and actually it's right across from Trump Towers where President Donald Trump was going to announce or make a statement after they, said he was the president-elect, right? So once the race started to drag on, Harry's had closed. And so this is the crazy part. all the Proud Boys and us, we just wanted to kind of walk around and still kind of just chill in DC and kind of watch what was going to happen next, right? So we start to make our way towards, like a little bit towards the White House, right? And before we go, everybody puts their Trump hats away. Everybody puts their American flags away. The Proud Boys, they put their guns away, everything. They really didn't want any type of confrontation. So we were just literally hanging out, being social. So we on our way towards the White House, and we know Black Lives Matters over there. So we trying to stay low. You know what I mean? So we might have ran into them and seen what they was doing, but we was hoping they wouldn't recognize us, you know, because everybody's just kind of cash, right? So as we're headed there, we hear Trump's about to make an announcement about voter fraud. So we sit on a stoop and we're listening to him make this announcement. And as we're sitting there, now mind you, we're near the White House. The thing is, DC, even though DC is a inner city area, some areas are not the hood. You know what I'm saying? The hood is where the hood at. The nice area of the White House is where the White House at. So where we were at was considered the nice part of town.
Very familiar with it. The closer you get to the White House, that whole area, there's expensive restaurants, there's stores. I mean, I'm very, very familiar with it. There's certain neighborhoods, the further you go in, you know, to DC, that might be a little more riskier.
And the further out, but the further deeper you in, you know, okay, this is the good area. So we in like what we consider a safe area. The police got things in check, so everybody's chilling. So as we're sitting on the stoop, I see this old white dude. He had to be like 60 or 70 years old. And he had a suit on with a red tie. I remember that. And he's on his phone and he's walking home. And he looks like he's coming from like an election event. And you can tell he's a little tipsy because he's kind of like in La La Land. And so as he's walking, we see 3 Black kids kind of trailing him. Now, when I say this is the thing. When I say there's 3 Black kids, I'm not just pegging because they're Black, okay? You got some like preppy skateboarder kids. You know that they're not gonna, you just know what type of kids is looking for mischief and for who's not. For anybody to act stupid and say, oh, you can't judge a book by its cover. No, that's a lie. You're not being realistic. These kids look like they were in the wrong area at the wrong time. On top of that, they trailing this older dude. Mind you, we already know BLM is up the block. So common sense is going to tell anybody these kids are in the wrong side of town. They look like trouble. They look like hoodlums. You know what I'm saying? Now, if everybody want to get mad because they Black, that's not our fault. Maybe if we stop living up to the stereotype, we wouldn't have this issue. But unfortunately, on one end, we want everybody to respect our community, this, that, and the other. But on another end, our culture lives up to the stereotype and the standard of niggatry that we do. You know what I'm saying? So you see these 3 kids walking and they're following the guy and everybody on the stoop is watching because we thinking, oh, snap, it's about to go down. So then the kids walk ahead of the dude and the dude is still on his phone, not paying attention. He's not seeing nothing going on. He doesn't even know we're on the stoop, neither do the kids. So now when the kids walk, the kids stop and turn towards him and surround him. And then he looks up from his phone, surprised, like, what's going on? And so then as soon as we see that, we already knew what they was on. They was either going to beat him up, rob him, or both. It's like, whatever. You know clearly what they're about to do. So we run over there and we tell the kids, like, stop. Leave this man alone. The kids are pissed. Shut the F up. Mind your effing business. We've been looking for this all night. This, that, and the other. And mind you, we're not being aggressive. We're not saying, oh, we're going to beat you up. We're basically telling these kids, bro, leave this man alone. One of them say, we've been looking for this all night. The girl tells me to shut the F up. And I tell her, no, I'm not shutting up. You need to leave this man alone. So then she punches me in my face. Now you can imagine, like, I got big curly hair out. Like in my mind, I didn't even think of fighting. But the crazy part is in all of my ministry, I never go anywhere basically looking to physically fight. Now I might preach the gospel or speak the truth, but never in my mind do I think to put my hands on someone else so they put their hands on me. You know, now I may have to defend myself here or there, but that's it. The girl punches me in my face and she starts to pull my hair. And as she's pulling my hair, another girl starts to hit me from the back. And then one girl takes a bottle. I guess the girl that was hitting me from the back went to grab a bottle, or which one of them, I don't know which how. I seen some, they look the same to me. Boy, girl, whatever. I think they were dykes, whatever.
How many of them were there?
Huh?
How many people were in that group?
There were 3 people. 3 people. So I know one of them grabs the bottle and throws it, misses me with the bottle. In their bag, they have an empty Hennessy bottle. Why are you walking around with an empty Hennessy bottle? And you couldn't have been drunk. You ready to fight like that? I mean, they're not staggering and loss of balance. These kids are totally woke and alert.
So that was a weapon. It was a weapon.
That's a weapon. Let's like
now.
It's a weapon.
This person who's, let's be real, you saved whoever that person was. You saved their ass. Were they still around here or they left?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't know. Because my hair was pulled. My hair was being pulled down the whole time. So I'm trying to get the girl off of my hair. And as I'm trying to get her off of my hair, someone's hitting me from the back. Next thing I know, I'm stabbed 3 times. Wow. And it happened so fast. But I did not see I couldn't see what was going on because I had like this big curly hair. And now she's pulling it. And I'm just trying to get her off my hair. But it happened out of nowhere. One minute she tells me to shut up. I tell her, no, I'm not going to shut up. Next thing I know, she's pulling my hair. Then the next thing I know, I'm stabbed. And I'm in some car. There was a random car that pulled up to take us to the hospital. I don't even know who that was. And I don't even know.
If they're watching, thank you.
Yeah. I don't even know how they were able to pull up because the streets were blocked off. So I'm like, oh my God, was it an angel?
Maybe it was a DT or something.
We don't even know how we got there. You know what I mean? So all of this just happened so fast.
Bev, what's going through your mind at this point? You get stabbed when you actually realize you were stabbed. What's going through your mind? Are you nervous? You scared you're gonna die?
I thought I was gonna die. In my mind, I like people will never understand this until you mentally experience it. There's this place where if you feel like you're injured to a point where you don't know whether it's severe. You may not know how severe it is, but you know it's severe. There's a sense of peace sometimes that comes over you to where you just like, well, I can't say for everybody else, but I know for me, in my mind, I just was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And so it was 2 things that came to my mind. The first thing was, and I'm being transparent, these are 2 things that were, the first 2 things I thought about that would I was tempted to dwell on was first and foremost, I see myself in a casket. And then the second thing is, I'm like, dang, I got $30,000 in the bank. I got to make sure my siblings get it so they can at least divide it up, right? Those are the 2 thoughts that came to my mind. But then after that, I kind of just turned away from those because I felt like this is not the time to think about those things. And there was a dude in the back seat. Now, mind you, there was one Indian guy that was with us. Me and him vibed the most because he's a professed Christian, so am I. So, we would try to like minister to some of the guys on the Proud Boys because not all of them are saved. I'm going to be real. But one of the guys who got stabbed in the neck was this white guy who I knew wasn't saved. And I was actually talking to him prior to us getting stabbed about what it means to be a Christian.
So there was more than one of you that was stabbed?
4 of us were stabbed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I was stabbed 3 times. 2 was stabbed in the neck, and Enrique, the founder of Proud Boys, was stabbed.
The founder?
Yes.
See, I'm only been paying all my attention to Bev, making sure she was okay. I didn't even read the whole story then. Wow.
Yeah, all of us.
Wow.
So the Indian boy gets in the car with me to go to the hospital, but I thought it was the white boy who got in the car in the back. So as we're headed to the hospital, and he's saying, I'm stabbed in the neck. I'm stabbed in the neck. I'm like, listen, repeat after me. You need to repent. You need to pray and accept Jesus. Because I'm thinking by the time we get to the hospital, God forbid we die, at least if this man repented of his sins and accepted Christ, at least we can go to heaven together.
Bev is trying to save souls even while she might be dying herself.
I knew I was going. I'm trying to make sure he's coming with me.
Spiritual warrior. Spiritual warrior. Wow. So I first of all, I'm actually, I feel stupid right now. I didn't realize, I thought it was just you because I was just following you and I saw your story. I didn't read about it in the press. I saw it from your Instagram. And I was like, okay, she was injured. Oh my God. And boom, boom, boom. And everyone recovered, right?
Everybody recovered.
Thank God.
But nobody died. Thank you, Lord. Everybody recovered.
Bev, do you think it's galvanized you? Do you feel that what happened to you now, more than ever, it's important that you keep fighting? Do you feel that it made you stronger? I mean, how do you feel after this incident?
I'll tell you this. While sitting in that hospital, all I could think about was, Satan should have killed me. It would have been better for him had I had been dead. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Once you kiss death and you survive that, you realize you have nothing to lose. As much as I really have nothing to lose, because all that in your last breath, what you think about is what matters. And in my last breath, all that mattered was a soul. So whether I'm rich, whether I'm poor, nothing matters to me but a soul, and that's been tested. You understand what I'm saying? So for the devil, for his sakes, it would have been better that I died. But now that I'm alive, listen, all I know is, for me, you can't push me, because I'm going to push back harder. I've been that way my whole life. If you tell me that I can't do it, if you tell me I can't get up, I'm going to show you I can do it and I can't get up. So I'm just going to take, this time to recover. And I'm really laying low until inauguration comes. Because after inauguration, it's lit. Once Trump is in office, it's so lit. You know what I mean? So I'm 100% pushing forward.
So there's definitely a lot going on. Each day in this year has been like a week, and each week's been like a month, and each month has been like a year. We're in the final level of Jumanji right now, right? Like it's,
yeah.
And just to give timeline to people that might be watching this months from now and years from now, we're about less than 2 weeks away from the official certification of this election, which is the most contested election, I think, in the history of the United States of America. I think it'll go down in history as that. This is a lot worse than Gore versus Bush in 2000. But before we get into this part of it, I want to backtrack. I want people to know who Bev is, like really know who you are. So I just want to do a little bit about your background. So where your family's from, where were you born, if you did any schooling, anything like that, just some background information about Bev so people know who you are.
Well, I was actually born in Staten Island, New York. And at 3, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And the reason why is because my dad was actually on the run for murder. So he had to move down because he didn't want to, He was
trying to evade, trying to get away from the charges.
Basically. So we ended up staying in the South, and I was raised there for a while. And then once I became a teenager, I moved back up north for college. And then I was in college for a while. And then from there, I dropped out. And then I ended up moving to Maine and working.
Maine?
Maine. I stayed in Maine for 4 years.
What were you doing up there?
Man, listen, Maine was the best. Oh, man.
I wish I was there now. Trust me. I wish I was there now. Trust me when I tell you.
But it's too liberal. Maine's too liberal, though. Maine is a nice place as far as the land. But Maine, mentally, the people there are super duper liberal. And you would think they're not because it's farmland. It's really the backbone of the state is farmers. But the people there are just really liberal and delusional, and they're kind of bubble-minded. So in a sense, it's a beautiful state because I don't have to worry about getting robbed in Maine. And let me tell you something, there's a big drug issue in Maine, right? But even with that, I ain't have to worry about getting robbed, something stolen from me. Like, it's just certain things, because it's small town people, everybody knows everybody, so certain things people just not gonna do. So living in Maine was probably the best for me. It was like fairy tale land. Like, I would leave my wallet in the store by accident, and if somebody's chasing me, giving me my wallet, but all my money's in it, you know what I mean? Like, I seen a glimpse of people who could be genuinely honest and trustworthy, even if they don't know you like that. It's just certain codes they wouldn't violate. So, I mean, Maine is a nice place, but again, it's way too liberal, But it did help me. It was a great place for me to retreat and see that there's still good in this world and good in people. You know what I mean? But when I moved back to New York, that's when I was like, wow, New York is savage. I was there for my dad. I had to get on my business thing. I started a new business. I had to get my grind on. So New York was the city to do it in. But at the same time, I still missed Maine because somebody had broke into my car, bust out my window because they seen my gym bag in it, stole my gym bag. I mean, just certain experiences like that I didn't have to deal with in Maine. I didn't have to worry about, it was just a peaceful life I lived out there.
So, I mean, what's interesting is you've had a little bit of that southern upbringing. You also have the city. I mean, you even up in the rural areas. So, I mean, you were exposed to a lot of different backgrounds at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, They say never ask a woman how old she is, but you know, I don't know if you care sharing that, but should we have an idea? Or that's something you don't want to share? You don't have to. I'll cut it out.
I'm 29.
Because you are what they would call an old soul. Based on your looks, you look a lot younger than that. But the way you act, I mean, the bravery that you show, I find you very brave. Regardless if people agree with what you believe in and what you're fighting for, you have to admire someone who stands up for what they believe in, who's willing to lose their life, someone that was just attacked. And I'm pretty sure your family, you know, I'm sure they're nervous right now. I mean, what's that been like after everything that happened? Are they telling you, Bev, maybe take it easy, this ain't worth your life? I mean, have you had any of those types of conversations with family? I mean, what are they saying to you? I forgot to ask you that.
I'll tell you a story. No one knows about this but you. You're the first to hear it. When I was in the hospital, I got to a point where I kind of broke down and I started crying because I felt like they were trying to kill me. Like mentally, I felt like they were trying to kill me. I felt like they really didn't care about my health. I'm a holistic person. And there's a reason why I'm giving you the storyline to answer your question. And so in the hospital, I really kind of mentally, I was at a place where I was about to sign myself out. Right. And so I made a decision that on Friday, when they took the tubes out of my lungs, I'm leaving. And I prayed about it and I said, Lord, I'm making that decision, whether they discharge me or not. I'm leaving on Friday, period. And so my sister got a phone call that night. I got a cousin named Trishina who lives in, she lived in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Country cousin. Like I got a lot of country cousins. And she had signed herself out of the hospital and she had died. So they were saying that it was because of COVID that she died. And so my mom told my sister, and then my sister, and I can be a little hard-headed sometimes. Like once my mind is made up, my mind is made up. You can talk till your face turn blue. There's nothing you can say to me. And so once my mind was made up, you know, my mom like put a birdie in my sister's ear so that my sister calls me and my sister tells me the story about Trishina. And I just told her that I made a decision by faith. I'm leaving this hospital because if I was going to die, I should have been dead. The Lord kept me this far. I'm getting out of this hospital because they are not tending to my health. I need to get back home where I could take care of myself. You put the right things in my body and get right. So when she calls me and she tells me what happened to my cousin, in a sense, I'm sad because I'm like, dang, this is my cousin. But in a sense, I rebuke my sister. And I say, Denisha, let me see. I said, this type of stuff you do, this pisses me off. I say, first of all, at the end of the day, Nene, if I was supposed to die, I would have been dead.
Facts.
All right? I'm stepping out on faith. And the Lord is with me. He has shown and proved his hand in my life. So now I'm telling you that I'm leaving. And now you come in here sowing a seed of doubt. And so I said, don't ever in your life do that again. If I told you what I'm going to do and I prayed about it and I made that what that was, that's what that is. I don't care what mommy or anybody else say. If that's what y'all do, y'all have that conversation on the sidelines. But don't ever call me with that again. And she received it. She was like, you know what, Bev, you're right. It's a seed of doubt. I shouldn't have did it. I apologize. And I'm going to tell you something. In the hospital, I was at the end of my ropes. A lot of times I could deal with my family and tolerate certain things from my siblings and my mom. But in the hospital, people calling me, oh, Bev, I'm so annoyed. I said, listen, I got a tube in my lung right now. Miss me with that. Don't call me with, this and that. Not right now. You're calling me at the wrong time. And I'm going to hang up the phone. Like, I couldn't do it.
No, you got to recover. You have to recover. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's nothing personal.
Yeah, nothing personal. But like you would think, be considerate of a person who just went through the trauma I went through. But some people are so self-centered, they can't think past themselves. So for me, with my family, what I'm saying is this. I get their concern, but a lot of their concern is because they don't see the bigger picture, you know, and they still are growing in their faith. So a lot of times I find myself having to check them because I'm rolling with God. So if you ain't rolling the way I'm rolling, you're not going to understand where I'm at, and I'm going to have to put you in your place.
I've seen it too many times, Bev, in my own personal experience, and I have to agree with you 100% on everything you just said right there. I have absolutely confirming what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I have family that should not be here right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, my oldest cousin on my father's side, and I just lost my aunt. May she rest in peace. She was an amazing woman. I'm very sad. One of the many losses of this year for me. But my cousin survived the massacre of his entire village and his own family. I mean, his whole family got killed right in front of him. He got shot 28 times. They gave the commandment, these soldiers, it was during the Kosovo War. It happened in 1998. They gave a commandment, the soldiers that killed all, they were unarmed, right? Unarmed, right? Because people want to give up their, you know, they were killed by their government at that time, you know? Yeah, just give up your right, you know. So they gave the order to, like in the movies, you know, make sure they're all dead. Put a bullet in each of their heads, okay? While this soldier was doing that to make sure that they were all dead. My cousin's wounded at this point. He's already on the ground, shot 25 times in his legs. He puts mud in his mouth, acts like he's dead. The soldiers come one by one, put another round in their heads. This guy puts the gun on his forehead. He said, I said my prayer to God at that moment. All of a sudden, the soldier's walkie-talkie goes off. All the guy had to do was pull the trigger. And it was off. The gun was already on his head.
Wow.
He reholstered the weapon. I guess he got busy. He went away or whatever. My cousin wasn't, when he wasn't looking, dragged with his hands into a ditch. 3 days. No food, no water, no medical attention. You tell me how he's alive. You get shot with one bullet. You don't get treatment for 2-3 hours, you're dead. I don't care if you get shot in your pinky. You get my point?
That's a fact.
28 bullets in his legs. Or 29. I don't have the exact count. It's almost 30 bullets in him. And they found him alive. I got the message he was dead with the rest of them. I mean, I went crazy for you got to imagine what I went through. I was 16 years old when I got that phone call. If I didn't believe in God, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have made it. Because I fell into despair. So I understand. But what I want to capitalize on is what I believe is that even during Nagasaki and Hiroshima in Japan, when those atomic bombs dropped, people that were right at the epicenter survived. An atomic bomb. Yeah. And people that were hundreds of miles away died. It means, unless it's your time, when he says it's your time, you will not die, my friend. And I agree with you because I've seen it too much. Those signs are out there for those that look.
Yes, 100%. I agree 1,000%.
And I say, you know, you might as well use your life for good because you're going to die anyway. And you got to start feeling that way.
That's a fact.
At least you used it for something. And I've always said, I hope when the time comes and the battle comes, I don't cower. Because eventually evil doesn't leave you alone. Eventually, you got to draw a line in the sand and say, no. And I think for a lot of people, they might have drawn these imaginary lines. But when the battle came to them, they're cowering. And I say to them, what are you waiting for? How much worse does it have to get? How bad has it gone throughout history when people didn't stand up when it was time to stand up? Why they don't learn these lessons, Bev, I don't understand. But that's why I admire you. Regardless if people agree with your ideology or not, they need to understand why you fight for what you fight for. You didn't stab anybody. You didn't beat anyone up. You haven't tried to kill anybody. And as an African American, as a Black American in this country, in such a volatile time, your voice to me is more important than the other voices. Because we need to see and understand both sides. I think there's a lot of people who feel for the African American community. They care about them. They feel guilt even for the past, even if it had nothing to do with them. My ancestors, I'm white. My ancestors had nothing to do with slavery. Nothing. Albania was always occupied. We had an apartheid. We were treated like shit. We were killed. We were murdered. We fell under communism. We were divided in 5 different countries. I still feel for my Black brother and sister in this country. I know what it's like to go through checkpoints and be harassed. I get it. But how the hell do we bring, I mean, is there ever a way we can reconcile this?
Well, this is the thing. The issue isn't the fact that, the reality is all races have experienced some type of traumatizing situation where, whether it be communism or racism or just injustice, any way, shape, or form, right? Because we live in a fallen world. I don't think people want to realize that this world is really ruled by Satan. Now, there's a place that you can have a good community and good people, but for the most part, as long as you walk this, the Bible says, yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I fear no evil. This world is the valley in the shadow of death, whether you like it or not. It's been that way since Adam and Eve. They the ones who started this, got the ball rolling with this thing, right? So what pisses me off is this. with all the communities who went through what they went through, there's only one who complains and wants to be justified for their struggles, and that's the Black community. And not just the Black community, but really the African-American community. I mean, in Africa, it's a lose-lose. Your leadership is Black. Whatever injustices y'all are going through, it's really corrupt from beginning to end because it's only your people out there. But in America, because we are such a melting pot, you know, our community tends to want to point the finger at everybody else of every color. But my thing is this: I have friends from Russia. I have friends from Ukraine who tell me stories of their struggles getting to the USA. I got a friend from Vietnam who told me their struggle escaping communism, and they train their kids to be strong and work hard and persevere. As to where it seems that with our community, the culture is to train them, you know, because you Black, people ain't gonna like you. Because you Black, you know, it's gonna be harder for you. So these kids are ingrained in their head. They believe because of my color, I'm set back. You know, you have a few African Americans who are conservatives usually who train their kids differently. And so now you see a difference in their children and how they're raised up. But for the most part in our culture, it's victimization. The music speaks on being a victim. And if you're not a victim, you go against everybody. Y'all talking about shooting each other. I'm gonna blow this nigga to pieces. I'm gonna shoot this hoe. And if you're not doing that, the women are acting like straight sluts. Like everything about our culture teaches us to not be respected, but yet still demand respect. It don't make sense. It don't add up. You understand what I'm saying? You have a few in between, but people got offended when Biden was like, you know, African American, like the difference between Latinos and African Americans is, you know, we're a little bit more, the Latinos are more culture, more different. We're basically the same, aside from a notable few. But the sad part is what he was saying is kind of true. It wasn't flattering to hear, but really it's kind of true because we believe in the culture. We allow like the hip hop culture and the R&B culture and all of these things to ingrain who we are as a people and to be our standard. But you don't have this when you're dealing with, like, you know, African Americans, you know, because we were slaves, we don't want to do trades. We don't want to work plum jobs and things like that because we were slaves. So now we want to get our doctorate degree. We want to get our what they call it, your PhD. You want to be fancy, right? So now you got these Russians that come over here, these Ukrainians, all of you Eastern European people that come over here. Y'all doing plumbing. Y'all doing construction work. Y'all doing this.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Y'all become more wealthy.
Killing it.
Y'all owning multiple businesses. Started with a little van. I've seen this firsthand because I roll with these people. So y'all starting with a van. Now y'all making boo dollars, own a house, everything. I got my one friend's, the Ukrainian family, they own every block on the cul-de-sac. And the aunt lives next to the aunt, then that aunt lives next to that aunt. I'm like, yo, and they stick together. Why? Because they realize, aside from our adversity and struggle, we now have an opportunity and we're going to take advantage of it, even if it means scrubbing floors. Even most of the women that come, they become nurses, and that's enough for them, okay? Or the guys are just doing construction, but these guys the families can come together, build a house up from the ground, okay? But no, we too fancy. We too busy complaining about white people who went through the same thing we've been through, if not worse, but no, they're white. And they hate us, and this and that and that. So if you're so busy worried about what the next man got going on, you can't provide for yourself, and you can't get your one up. So now all you can do is point a finger at the next man. That's the issue with our community. And I'm gonna speak on it. I don't really care.
No, that's not even like your main message. But you know, I've heard you say similar things. But I can tell you, I can't tell you how many people I know who are not even born here. They've only been here 20 years. They're crushing it, killing it. 10 years. One guy I know, he's 10 years. He's one of the biggest roofers in Jersey. He makes millions. But he got up on that roof. He worked for years. He learned, he didn't like doing, you know how hot the roofing business, you know how hard it is to tar a roof? How hot it is in the summertime? You got to carry the shingles up the guy worked, right? And then he opened his own company. He came here in debt. He didn't come here with money. So I agree with a lot of what you say. I mean, I agree. I don't think either of us deny the past. This country had a crazy past. It did. There were certain things that were horrible.
Every other country. But now, do you persevere or what? What are we going to do? Are we going to push forward or not? America's still the greatest country in the world. It's still the country where you can be born poor and you can become rich. You can't do that in every country.
And
so now you either going to wallow, I'm going to sit and wallow for the rest of my life about being stabbed, or I'm going to get up and go forward. I wish I would let one incident stop my whole life. And if that's what the enemy's agenda was to do, then he succeeded at it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept that.
So Bev, you do your early life, you move around, you start your career. Are you always a spiritual person? Was that always inbred into you, or do you find this at a later phase in your life? When did you become spiritual? When did you make your connection with God? Do you remember when it really hit you?
Well, I became a Christian in 2013. And actually, I was sitting in jail for 7 days, waiting on my dad to bail me out because I had got charged with money laundering. And so I had laundered $25,000 and, little white collar crime I used to do. And my dad didn't know about it. I was he didn't know I had got kicked out of college. And so he seen out, I was making money and all this stuff like that. He knew something was up, but he didn't know what was up. But then when I got in trouble and he needed to bail me out, he came right away, got me bailed out, and that was that. But I had met a woman that while I was in jail who had a prophetic gift. And I think at that time, at the place I was at, only God could speak to me. I was kind of arrogant. I'm making money. I was a Jezebel too. Like these feminists today, like the ones who shave their head bald and don't shave and stuff. I wasn't that type of feminist. I was finessing men. You know what I'm saying? That was the name of the game for me. They only want one thing anyway. Get what you can get out of them. You know what I mean? Whatever. So that was really my mentality, right? So now when this woman comes to me and she tells me, the road you're headed to, it's death. And actually, she told me about a night that only God knew about. I came home drunk from hanging out with my friends. And when I got home, I went into the bathroom and I turned the water on. And I started crying, and I was really crying out to the Lord because I was dealing with depression, but I didn't know how to face it. You know what I'm saying? But there was this real severe sense of just hopelessness that I was dealing with, that I really wouldn't show the world. You know what I'm saying? Because it's you never let them see you sweat. So you don't want people to see that part, that internally the turmoil you're going through. So this woman told me about that night, and nobody else could have known about that night. Nobody. So when she told me about that night, I'm like, man, this is God speaking to me. And so then she warns me. She says, listen, you have to change. If you don't surrender your life to the Lord, you're headed towards self-destruction and death. And for her to tell me that, I knew it was God speaking to me. And one thing about me is I know I'm strong-headed and things like that, but I'm not a knucklehead. When I hear truth, I receive it and I listen. You don't have to tell me twice. So when I got out of jail, my dad bailed me out. I really just kind of went on the straight and narrow. I was just like, Lord, I really don't know how to be good, but I know when I'm doing bad, and I'm just trusting you. And this is coming from someone who's a young college student, partying, drinking, just being ruthless.
We all been there. We all been there. I was there. So
exactly, just trust whatever. Live day. So I think a year later, I experienced through that time, I had to grow in faith in the Lord, because the thing is, I'm a go-getter, nothing was ever handed to me. Everything I had, I worked for. So in that time, I had to learn how to have faith in God rather than take things upon myself, because that's why I would do what I did. I believe there was a God, but I didn't trust him enough to maintain a certain lifestyle that I wanted. So I'm like, listen, I'm gonna go with the fast money because I know I make the money, you know what I mean? But in my mind, I'm doing what I need to do. You know what I'm saying? I got a $1,200 rent to pay. I live by myself in Brooklyn. I'm not dependent on this person and that person. So for me, it was justification, get to the bag, and I did not have enough faith that God could take care of me. And so then in that year, I really had to walk by faith. And he did. He showed his hand, and he really had. And I said to him, I said, God, if you really do exist, you got to show me that you're real. You have to show me, because, you say, if I trust in you and if I surrender my life, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. Well, we need to see something shake, because if you're real, you got to show and prove. And so in time he did. And so a year later, I met my best friend who was my mentor at first, taught me the Bible, and just really kind of brought me up as far as the way a Christian is supposed to walk and the standard that a Christian is supposed to live by. And so through that, we became best friends. And I've just, since then, have been growing, and I've just gotten stronger in my faith over time. So that's it.
So, I mean, because, you know, you're still very young, and you've done so much. Now, when did I first notice who Bev was? With all this stuff going on, and then, you know, they paint the big mural in front of Trump Tower in New York, the Black Lives Matter, and I see this woman, but she's black. What the hell is she doing? Like, and she's throwing paint all over the mural, and I go, but why would she do that for? And that was you, right? So that's the first time that you came onto my radar. And I was like, well, why was she doing that? Because, you know, in the beginning, listen, there was a lot of people who felt like they want to support the black community. They saw those videos. They saw what happened with the police, you know, handling of these people. And a lot of people, especially white people, felt like, okay, I got to support, you know, because, listen, the media is very powerful, right? You don't want to feel like you're turning your back on your neighbor. I think people's good intentions have maybe been used against them. I mean, I'm not the best person to call this all out the way it is. When did you realize that this movement was not for you? And when did you see the cracks in that as a black woman?
I smelled the coffee from the jump, and this is why. Okay, let's just say, for their sakes, for their argument, every single injustice they spoke of was actually a real injustice. And it just was the cop who wanted to kill a black person. For them, because that's what the narrative they paint. That's not true, but that's the narrative that they paint, right? So I'm going to say, let's buy into it for right now. For a second, we're going to buy into it. Fine. You got cops that just be out here wanting to kill black men and black women. Okay. But now let's go into your communities for a second. This is the thing. I was raised by a man, okay? And men bring logic to the table. What I've noticed now is in this world we're dealing with, a lot of these young leaders coming up, they're fatherless, right? So they have a very effeminate way of thinking. And that's why a lot of people can just be invoked and provoked with emotion. You know what I'm saying? I was always raised 2 + 2 = 4, right? So let's look at common sense. I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in the hoods. I've seen this first and foremost. I got a lot of friends who are dead right now. And if they're not dead, they're in jail. Why are they in jail? Not because they're black, but because they were criminals, okay? In my own neighborhood, in my own community, when I lived in Maine, I felt safe. No one there looked like me. But in that neighborhood, I felt safe. I could call my neighbor and say, hey, could you go in my house and check? I think I left my oven on. I'm going to be gone for a month. Can you just go and check up on the house? Or when I was there and she wasn't there, if I seen a new car pulling up in her driveway, I'm in my window like, who's that? Because, you know what I'm saying? I know the cars that pull up in there. But when I go into my neighborhoods, I'm black. I'm as black as they come. Why don't I feel safe? Why in my own neighborhood, my car windows getting bust out? People are watching me, watching my move every day. I'm leaving in and out of my dad's house in the neighborhood I'm in now. Because we have an issue that has not been addressed in the black community. There is violence and there is disrespect and there's a culture of evil in our own community that has not been addressed. So now you want to tell white people and the police, respect us, don't shoot us, stay out of our communities, but you haven't corrected the main issue. There's a reason why they're shooting you, and there's a reason why they're in your communities, because they have to treat you, they have to be babysitters to you because you don't know how to act. So now when they actually do leave the communities, you know what happens? It's a free-for-all. They kill each other. This is how these Democrats think. They know to push this narrative of, okay, we're going to get all the police out, Black Lives Matter, this, that, and the other. But in the back of their mind, you know what they're saying? Yup, we're going to watch them niggas kill themselves. They're animals. They think we animals. They think we're stupid. So rather than us counter this thought process, we co-sign it. And by the way we treat ourselves. And I don't care what color you are, what background you are. If you ain't going to see that and acknowledge that that's a problem, it's either because you're a fraud or you're delusional. But it's a problem, you know? And I'm not going to act like it's not. So for me, with BLM, BLM is a direct setup. It's a finesse. It's setting these people up for failure. Because while they pushing this narrative, they setting us up to die. First and foremost, you don't want the nuclear family. Therefore, you're not for the black man. If a man is not in the household, bro, we already lost. You can't build a household without a man. You need a man. It's vital. You need the structure. They are the structure. They're the logic. They're the balance. And without them, the family just cannot be as strong as it needs to be without a man. I don't care. That's number one. Number two, y'all pushing abortion. First of all, if black people really want to talk about it, we would have been stronger had we had not been the number one customer for abortion.
You might have been half the country by now, maybe. We
would have been 50% of the nation.
Thank you.
So all of this inequality for minorities, we wouldn't have been a minority had we not have been killing ourselves. Nobody wants to talk about it.
De facto, in your 100% conviction here is that abortion actually helps suppress black people.
100%.
From rising up, from becoming a majority, from a lot of other things.
How do Muslims get in power? What do Muslims do? Muslims never just come into a country and take over overnight. No, they infiltrate and they get married. They start businesses. They have babies and they multiply themselves and they take over that way. They bring their family from overseas. They get their 5, 6, 7 wives pregnant. They be having 20 kids because they know with kids is power and prosperity. This is common sense. Our community is depraved, and it's because we're killing each other off. And the reality is this: you can't murder and think death is you're gonna reap what you sow. You can't be a community that is known to murder from the womb and think it's not going to be reaped in your neighborhoods. We're speaking about right. The wages of sin is death. What goes up must come down. You can't just think you're going to get away with murdering innocent children and you're not going to reap in your neighborhood. So now they're shooting each other up. But they've already sown discord and death in their own communities when you're killing each other. You're killing your own kids.
Let me ask you a question, because this has always been on the top of my, and maybe you don't have the answer, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot with history and all this other stuff, because this is not an issue that started yesterday. I mean, we can both agree on that. It seems to me that the family structure, I might be wrong, but the family structure was still intact during the time of the Reverend Martin Luther King and during the time of Malcolm X. From what I could tell from the images, from the videos, from the footage of where you would see the black community, they seemed very unified back then. They seemed much more on the same page, regardless if they were with the Muslims or the Christians. And it seemed to me that the family structure was still intact. Am I? And
it was stronger.
Am I correct?
But there was a man, you're 100% correct. But there's a man named Lyndon Baines Johnson who implemented a war on poverty right after John F. Kennedy got assassinated. And so what happened was women agreed to allow government to be their husband and their provisionary rather than an actual husband. And so once you allow government to be the hand that feeds you, it's like a pimp and hoe effect. First of all, if the pimp is going to feed you, the pimp is going to have some demands and standards that you have to live by to get fed. In the same way with the welfare system, for you to get, this low income apartment, these food stamps, this Medicaid and all of this stuff. Yeah, you can get this. You got to have at least 3 kids. You can't be married. Didn't say you can't have sex, but you can't be married. But this is what you have to live by. So now you have a woman raising children and basically living by the standard of the government, okay? Idle. And now there's no husband in there. And whatever men are coming in are dipping and diving, might give her another baby or 2, but she's not even concerned about whether he's going to provide. Her concern is, okay, the government's going to give me more. We know this. The more babies you have, the more money you get from the government. So now the whole, how can I say this? The structure God gave man to live by when it came to family, we gave it up. We traded in holiness for a bowl of stew. Okay. And so once the man steps out of the family, men now are idle. They don't got no women until, back then, a man ain't had time to be gangbanging. He had a Little House on the Prairie. I'm actually going to watch it when I get off of here. It's my favorite show in the whole wide world.
Laura Ingalls.
Laura Ingalls, Charles Ingalls. He is my heart. He's my heart.
I haven't watched that show in a long time, yo.
That's my show.
I used to find it kind of a little boring. I'm not gonna lie.
No, listen, as you get older, though,
you appreciate it.
So, especially for children, to learn family values and what consequences are. Great show. So now, back then, they had a farm. There was no welfare. There was no socialist program to help them out. If the crop didn't come in, Paul had to go get work somewhere else for the winter, because you need cash for the winter. You can't just grow everything you eat, okay? But everybody had to work. The children had to clean the coop. The mother had to keep the house. The father had to plow the land. If the father got sick, guess what? The children and the mama needed to go out there, plow the land, put down the seed, because if something didn't grow, they wasn't eating. So the work ethic that they had and the unity that they had, and the woman had to stay in her place because she couldn't get in her husband's place because it would disrupt the structure of the household. Everybody had a lane and everybody knew to stay in it because it was a dire need for the structure of the household to be intact so that they could survive. You understand what I'm saying? As to where now you see the household structure has been totally disrupted. And now all I see is men who are clowns, right? And they're not leaders, and they're effeminate. And I see women who are Jezebels who take on this whole trifling, disgusting culture. There's no class. I mean, it at all. And it's like, and the children that are coming up are savages. But all of this came from Lyndon Baines Johnson. These kids are ruthless savages.
They've done research, and it's not just the Black community when it comes to this, by the way. This disease, spiritual disease, as some may call it, is spreading throughout the entire land and the world, because it's in every community now. Divorce, for example, in my community was something you never heard of. It was so rare. And the consequences for divorce in my culture sometimes was straight up blood wars. Like families would kill each other for the dishonor. Oh, you left my daughter. Like, you understand? Like, that's how sacred marriage was, that people might even kill over it. You get my point?
Yeah.
So, and that's how it was. But up until like the late 90s, like in the Albanian world, like, yeah, you were allowed to get divorced, but you weren't allowed to get divorced. You get my point?
Yeah.
Like, you never
it was
wanted
like the unspoken,
don't shame the family, freaking whatever. And I'm not saying that's, I believe, that's a whole nother issue. But what I've noticed, and I think we've all noticed, regardless of what community, divorce has become extremely prevalent in this land. Children born out of wedlock, these are having direct consequences.
40%.
I agree with the fact that if you study criminology and if you look at the statistics, this is a fact. I'm not making this up. The most violent crime is committed from children born in those circumstances. That's a fact.
Yes.
Rape, murder, violent crime, felony, usually single parent home, either the mom or the dad. So it's regardless. So what does it tell you? It's not just about being Black. It's the conditions that set that up. They affect anyone regardless of their nationality, color, or race when you destroy the family unit. Fact.
Yes. The only issue is when it comes to my community, my issue is, as I said before, I'll say again, it's not so much so that it's only the Black community. It's that we're the only ones screaming justification. A lot of these other communities are not. They're just wallowing in whatever dirt they have. But we're the ones screaming to be justified and co-signed for this. But this is toxic all across the board. And it's not okay under no circumstances.
So when does it get to the point where you went from finding your spirituality, making your commitment to God and the faith that you believe, to I got to be vocal, I got to be outspoken, I don't care, it's not about being out, because from what I can tell, I know you ain't doing it for the clout. I know you're not. I can tell. I've been around. I know a lot of people. I've been in nightlife my whole life. If you look at my Instagram, you see all the celebrities I've came. I wish I had pictures of all the ones that I used to hang out with. I used to hang out with Tracy Morgan back in the day, but he's too Hollywood for me now. So my point is this. When does it get to a point where you're like, I got to fight back? And why do you feel that I understand maybe from the spiritual aspect of, your faith. Obviously, the right is supposed to be against abortion, which goes with Christianity. But to you, do you look at a leader based on their party, or do you actually try to look at that person and say, no, this person is someone that I believe is standing up for what's right? And why do you feel Trump is that person?
Well, first and foremost, I have to look at the party in a sense, because if I'm pro Black Lives Matter, we're gonna have to have a conversation as to why I support them. We got to know where my mind is at. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes what you support kind of let you know where a person's at off GP. At the same time, am I willing to listen to them talk? Yeah. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say what I'm expecting them to say anyway. Because once we start to talk, all I know is you start talking about abortion and you for abortion, you a dumb. You already told me everything I need to know, even if you're a Christian. And you say, oh, well, what if? Okay, so you ain't there. But this is my thing. It's a fight now for everybody. If any person, you could have 10 friends on Facebook. If you go on your Facebook page right now and just say 10 of your coworkers or your friends, you could just be plain old Jane that works at the call center down the block, right? And she just says, I do not stand with Black Lives Matter. 9 of her coworkers are going to be, that's racist. Jane, you're a racist. They're attacking her. Next thing you know, when she gets to work, she's getting pulled into the office because she got complaints against her. And now there's a possibility that she might even lose her job for what she posted on Facebook. This thing is so, like you said, this is such a sensitive time, because even the little guy doesn't have a voice. Now, it's not that he doesn't have a voice because he's being suppressed. He, in a sense, thinks he doesn't have a voice because the moment he says something counter to what the culture is pushing, he's criminalized, right? So now, for me, Beck, I'm a grown woman, okay? When it's time for me to pay my bills, nobody else's name is on the check or on the card for me to do it. It's my name, okay? When people ready to come and collect what they need, when it's time for me to put gas in my car, or when it's time for me to pay my phone bill, or when I'm even going on my Facebook page, whose name's on it? Mine. I have total responsibility of that. So now what the hell do I look like as a grown woman, allowing people who may disagree with my view to shut me down because they don't agree? But at the end of the day, I make sure food is on my plate, not them. So if I feel like this is where I'm at, this is where I'm at. So now the more you push me to shut up, the more I'm going to push back and say what I mean. And you know what? I'm going to double down and I'm going to say it again. And this is what blows my mind. Aside from just having your own views, when do people forget that they're adults and they have a right to say what's on their mind? And we all know that if you don't say what's on your mind and you cower down, something in you is going to bubble up or either die inside every time you allow yourself to be a coward and not say what you truly feel. So now I have a choice. Am I going to lie to myself to accommodate others, or suppress what's within me to accommodate others, or I'm going to keep it 100? Bevel is going to keep it 100. And at the end of the day, I don't owe nobody nothing but the truth. So I'm going to say it, period.
Do you see this election going, do you think he gets this? Is he going to get past all this? Obviously, we're divided down the middle, and I'm worried about, as someone who's lost family in war, a lot of family in war. Mm-hmm. What people don't understand is nobody wins in war except the devil. But unfortunately, we get to these points where there's that flashpoint, and sometimes there's no choice. Good has to fight evil. It happens. What do you feel about the future of this country? What do you think is at risk over the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, what do you? Are
you ready for the answer to this question?
Go ahead.
Are you ready?
I hope so.
I'm gonna get biblical on you though. I don't know if you're ready to handle that.
Listen, I want people to understand what you're fighting for, what you believe in. Okay. And
this is where I'm at. I'm gonna be totally transparent. When you go back to Old Testament, you look at the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Before God destroyed the 2 cities, he was talking to Abraham, and Abraham was pleading with him, like, listen, if there's even 5, there's 10, the number ended at 5. If there's even 5 righteous in the city, he'll spare the city. God could not find 5. And so he led Lot and Lot's family out, which was less than 5. And the wife wasn't even righteous. She looked back. She
told her not to look back, turned her into stone.
And so the city was destroyed. And until this day, it is a desolate place where not even a plant grows.
The lowest place on earth.
Exactly. And
geographically.
Yeah, geographically, to this day. So
the
people don't believe there's a God, they're fools. They're fools to think there's no God. That's number 1. Now, in the good book, the promise has been when you turn your face to the Lord, you, your children, and even your children's children will be covered and be spared. And it also says that I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging for bread. When you do your history on this country and you find out about the Pilgrims and you find out about the founding fathers of this country, as you do thorough research on these men, you realize, wow, they were men of God. When you start to read George Washington writings and you hear how he speaks of the great providence that protected him in the French and Indian War and how he had 4 bullet holes in his jacket, but not one pierced him. And they were under an ambush to where usually the British fought straight way. They would stand out in front of each other and shoot. But now they're dealing with the Indians who kind of hijacked them through the woods. It was a losing battle. But George Washington said the great providence had a call upon my life. He went from an army general to the first president of the United States. This man, if you read his personal texts, which they try to hide, you from reading it, you know, these are men of God. And even the least religious one said, don't take the Bibles and don't take Christianity out of school. Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, who was considered the least religious, still had a foundation of understanding the principles of the word of God and following them and how much they help the country prosper. So there is no coincidence that the USA is one of the greatest countries in the world, and not based off of domination like the Roman Empire, but based off of freedom. There's a difference. They try to compare us to the Roman Empire, but this was not a monarchy and a domination. This is the country that is free. We the people, right? Why am I saying all of this? Because we are looking at some of our darkest hours, yes. And we are looking at our country being challenged. And now we are at a crossroad where the people are either going to rise up and make a decision to stand for truth, because there is a silent majority. More than we realize, there's a silent majority. But right now, we're at a crossroad of standing for truth or not. And really, a lot of us have been living in la la land. But by Trump becoming president the first time, a lot was exposed. A lot that we didn't think was real really was exposed. You know what I mean? They thought they had the media. I mean, they had it set. A black president first. Then after the black president, a woman president. After the woman president, a gay president. After the gay president, one world order. I mean, they had it set. But God sent Trump. So if God's hand wasn't on the USA, Trump wouldn't have been in office. It was nearly impossible. This man should have not have been president, but it was by the glory and grace of God that he became president. So God is with us, right? So now we're headed to a time where now voter fraud is being exposed. It's something that's been happening. There's a reason why New York City has been Democrat for 60, 70, 80 years. It's not because the people didn't want change. It's because the votes have been rigged. It's a reason why Philly is the way Philly is. There's a reason why San Francisco, LA is the way it is, because they've been rigging the elections. Jersey was red. When I seen Jersey was blue, I knew something wasn't right. But then when I seen Arizona was blue, I'm like, nah, something.
And that Texas almost went blue. And then Texas almost went blue. Texas, come on. In this election.
Nah. So now all of this new stuff about the Dominion software and all of this is coming out, but it had to come out because we were being rocked to sleep and we were allowing ourselves to be rocked to sleep. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. God is going to again open up the Red Sea in the USA, and he's going to spare this country because I could bank on my bottom dollar. There's more than 10 that are righteous in this country. He's going to spare this land, bro. And I'm going to tell you a secret. When I travel to foreign countries, especially when I'm in Africa for some reason, but even in France, I've noticed that the leadership kind of whatever the spirit is of the leadership, you can kind of see it in the people. Like, prime example, when I'm in Africa, right? South Africa is pretty corrupt. Okay. And so South Africa is a pretty booming economy based off of the rest of the country, but it's still Africa. Don't get it twisted. It's still Africa. But what I've noticed is that the moment they would hear my American accent, the people would try to take advantage of me. They would try to overcharge me, and they had no shame in doing it. They were so shameless about being conniving and corrupt. You know what I mean? And it was just like, for them, whatever. It's normal because their leadership does it. So that spirit of corruption fell upon the people. You understand what I'm saying? So you can so there's a place where you may have some that are somewhat silent, but for the most part, really in Africa, every other day I'm fighting for my dollars because they hear my accent and they're trying to play me, right? But when we get so what I'm saying is that the leadership can determine where the people even are at. In America, we're not just cloaked under one leadership because there's so many offices and the people are really fighting for the people. So you have some that are corrupt and you see where their areas are corrupt, but then you have some, I live in Tennessee right now. You can see, okay, their leadership here is not corrupt, but in New York, it's a whole nother horse. It's a total different horse because they're corrupt. You understand what I'm saying? So all of that to say, as long as there are righteous people in this nation, truly righteous, God is going to spare this nation. I'm going to tell you when it's going to happen though, because it is going to happen. Revelations has to come to pass. The one world order, the chip, all of this stuff has to come to pass, but it's going to come to pass after the rapture. Mark my words. There's a rapture. When Jesus comes back and calls up his people and there are no more righteous on this earth, guess what? You're going to see. Well, if you're not here, hopefully you ain't here. But when the righteous are called up, the one world order is going to happen. No question.
What you're saying, I believe too. I believe that, but then how is that a good thing? I see all of that coming to pass. The chip, one world government, mankind enslaved, the false one rises. I've studied these things, for a long time in my life, and I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. But how fast these last 20 years, how much has changed just from a lot of the stuff we've covered already. Do you think we'll see that in our lifetime?
Baby, I won't be here.
Humanity, whoever's left.
Humanity will see it. The reality is humanity and Christians are two totally different things. We divided between the sheep and the goats. Either you're going to go with Jesus, you're going to be listen, there were 4 brides. 2 had their oil ready for their bridegroom to come back. He said he's coming back. And 2 wasn't ready. So when he called them up, and the thing is, when the rising of the enemy isn't not even so much so the wrath of God. It's kind of like what Jesus went through. When Jesus died in sin and iniquity for us, and all of our sin was poured upon him, because with the way he died and how he died, God turned his face. He had to turn his face from his son and let his son die. And that was for us, right? And so Jesus made a promise that he would come back for us. And there would be a time where the enemy would reign supreme on this earth. What he wanted, he would get for a second. And it wouldn't be because God wanted it, but it had to happen. Because, again, we disobeyed the Lord from the beginning. We didn't have to go through this had our father, me and your father, Adam and mother Eve, would have listened and obeyed, but they didn't, right? But he promised he would come and get us. And all of us don't have to go through this reign of the evil one. All of us don't have to be witnesses of this. Now, he did say, yes, there will be persecution as a Christian. We're dealing with that every day. But I don't have to be here while the evil one reigns supreme. I've been an obedient, faithful servant of the Lord. So when he said he's coming back for us, I'm expecting to go. Now, the crazy part is this. Even with him taking some up, he's still showing grace and mercy, because people that are still left on this earth will still have an opportunity to surrender their life to Christ. But guess what? They're going to have to get their head chopped off. They're going to have to go through the furnace, because there's going to be great persecution with no one to spare. So that's a choice. You could either bow now or you could bow later. But every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess Jesus is Lord. I'm choosing to do it now. So I'm not gonna be here when it goes down. I'm gonna be chilling in heaven.
So for you, and just so people understand, your real battle, it's not even about Black Lives Matter, racism. At the end of the day, what you're fighting for, and some of this overlaps, obviously, right? The things that are going on in the country and politics. When you do what you do, it's not even about trying to prove Black Lives Matter wrong or attack your own people or whatever however people want to perceive you. People that see this, I want them to understand why Bevelyn does what Bevelyn does. At the end of the day, you live your life based on the gospel. You believe in God. You're a very strong Christian, and this is what motivates you. Period. That's your number one motivation.
I am a kingdom.
You're trying to unlock hearts and minds.
I'm a kingdom girl. All right. The Bible says, seek ye the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. I don't got time to chase color. Everybody is my brethren. Those who hear the word of God and obey it, those are my brothers and sisters. And no, they don't got to look like me to be my brother and sister. But you know what? When we stand in the Lord, we stand together. And we cry together. So for me, it's kingdom. I'm on kingdom, and anything that defies the kingdom of God, I'm coming after, whether it be communism, Black Lives Matter, homosexuality, because that's another thing I despise. Feminists, I think they're disgusting because they defy what God created women to be. And so these things counsel the word of God. So I'm going to be against them. You understand what I'm saying? When they align with the word, we can talk. But if they ain't aligning with the word of God, no, I'm not going to be a friend of it. I'm an enemy of it.
And I understand that perspective. But the issue is when we live in the U.S., everyone has the right to believe what they want, do what they want.
Listen.
How does this country survive that? That's what I'm saying. When we're talking about this, there comes a point where, and I think we're at that point, where you could even say the godless and the God-fearing, regardless of faith, there's people that believe and don't believe. Mm-hmm. There's some moral structure there that's different than people that are maybe atheists or don't believe in God or whatever, different belief systems. You don't think we're at that flashpoint right now in this country? Right down the middle?
You know what? We've always been at that place. You want to know what the difference is? The thing is, back then, we utilized culture to shame anything different from our beliefs. So living in the USA, the beauty about living in the USA is you can have arguments about, okay, Satan and God, but no one has the right to kill each other. You know what I'm saying? That's the freedom of being in the US, to where you can agree to disagree. But there was the thing is, back then, we had a foot on culture that now the enemy has on culture. There was once upon a time, culturally, a girl getting pregnant at 15 years old was unheard of. And if she lived in the North, she's getting sent to the South. If she lives to the South, she's getting sent to the North. If a dude gets a girl pregnant without marrying her, daddy's putting a shotgun to his head and saying, you going on the altar, buddy.
100% that was going on. Number two, if somebody called you a bastard, you'd smash their face for calling you a bastard.
And don't let it be true.
And now don't let it be true. And now it's what? Almost a whole generation, half of them.
Yes. So what has happened is the enemy has taken foot and reign over culture. Back then, it wasn't that way. Christian culture was normal. That's why you got shows like Little House on the Prairie. You know what I'm saying? But as time has gone on, we've allowed ourselves to be exposed to way more than we should have. You got porn. You know what I'm saying? You got even sex scenes in children's movies. You got two men kissing on each other in a kid's book. Like, there's certain things you just wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? There's even people that are gay from the old school that would never publicly flaunt their relationship. They had enough respect for others to keep it undercover. Back in the day, even if you was on drugs and you partied and lived a certain life, you would never want your parents to co-sign your lifestyle. No, you would live two different lives. When you were with your parents, certain things they wouldn't see. When you were in the streets doing what you did what you did, but you never brought it home. There was just certain codes that was respected because culturally it was shameful. Culturally, if you got an abortion clinic or you pregnant by, you know what I'm saying, like you a concubine, it was shameful. Now it's glorified. Oh yeah, you know my baby daddy. You got Kylie Jenner. She got a baby daddy, the rapper. They're not married. She's popular. She's vulgar. The way she carries herself is overly sexual. And the issue is young girls watch her and do what she do. She got a man and she got a baby by this guy that's not even her husband, and it's glorified. You know, she living her best life. She half naked with a baby, no husband, but it's normal. The culture is the issue, but the traditional values, they're either there or they're not, and either people are going to speak on them or they're not. But it's the culture that's shifting. It's not so much so, and what it is now the people who are accepting this different culture want to now change the laws and change the USA into adapting to these new cultures. But we come from traditional values, and we ain't trying to change.
You know, people forget that in this country there was outrage when the genie from I Dream of Jeannie showed her belly button on television for the first time. There was protest. Now, people might look back at that time and say, oh, well, they were old-fashioned. And some people like you would probably say, no, that's how far off the reservation we've gone, right?
Yes.
So what about the people that would say, well, maybe what you're saying is anti-gay, and they have a right to be here, and they have a right to be married now in America, and what you're saying is not fair, and this is America now, and you shouldn't be speaking the way you're speaking, and why should you stay here? And, you know, if you feel like that, maybe you're the bigot, maybe you're the person full of hatred, maybe you need to leave the United States of America. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, first of all, I would say as long as my U.S. passport and my birth certificate says I was born in the United States of America, and as far as I can tell, I'm of the descendants of eradicated slaves who helped build this country, you can kiss my behind. I ain't going nowhere. That's first and foremost. Okay? That's number one. Number two, the reality is this. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, shove it. I don't care. I think it's disgusting. First and foremost, it's an abomination. It trains our young men to now want to sleep with young boys. Now we can't reproduce. Our young women are sleeping with young girls. It causes confusion. All right. This underage gender transition and all of that. No, this is not okay. This is a humongous problem. That's why you already see there's a high suicide rate with transgenders, especially those who go through the surgery. They end up killing themselves 2 or 3 years later because they realize, oh, snap, I went too far. I did what I shouldn't have did. Okay? So this isn't the solution. Changing the gender that God never gave you is not the solution. It's a mental problem. That's the reality. So for me, I'm not going to sit here and say, first of all, do we have a right to go around shooting people because they're gay? No. No one's advocating to murder anybody because they're gay. But at the same time, do we have a right as a culture to not co-sign certain things? If we're not going to co-sign stealing, okay? Maybe somewhere in some neighborhood, they decided, okay, it's a culture now to be a thief. You know, you got boosters. That's how people make a living. You know, scammers, credit cards, you know, you get other people's information, you go and make money. Maybe in their culture, that's the new way to make money. Does it make it okay? No. Do they have the right to do it if it hurts someone else? No. First of all, a marriage is acknowledged between a man and a woman, period. Okay? We didn't come up with marriage. Biblically, God came up with marriage. So he's the author of marriage. So now we're not going to violate God to accommodate someone else's feelings. And if some people want to do that, that's their business. But I'm going to speak against it. That's my right. And I have every right to say what I want to say. So if you got your right to feel how you want to feel and your laws that you want to touch and agree with, I got a right to feel how I want to feel and what laws I want to touch and agree with. So what we doing?
And the other side is they push their agenda. It's in movies, it's in films, it's talk shows, magazines, in school now. So, I mean, you do have that right to say how you feel the other way. I mean, if this is still America.
Yes, and they push it like nobody's business. You got drag queens dancing half naked in front of 5-year-olds.
I think it's too young, regardless of age. Regardless if you're gay and you have a kid or don't. That age, why do kids need to learn about sex at 5?
Why are you cutting a little boy's penis off at 8 years old?
No, that's...
I don't care how much of a girl
crazy.
You want to be.
You don't know what the hell you are at age 8.
8. What? You ain't young. mine ain't even developed that age. Why are you cutting off his joint?
Yeah, you're not even giving that kid a chance. They need to reach the age of reason. They need to be 18 years old and to even begin to understand life. I didn't know what the hell I was doing until last week, and I'm 38 years old.
So now you're gonna make so now when I go, you have to get a parent's consent and be a certain age to get a tattoo. But now you don't even gotta have all of that. A kid could decide in school, I'm changing my name, I'm gonna be a girl, and the parent has no consent. But to take them to get a tattoo, you need parental consent. Like parents are falling for the bait so much with culture that they don't even realize they're giving up their children to the system. You are no longer the authority in your own child's life. You are allowing, first of all, the parent used to lead the child. It seems as if now the children are leading the parent. How the hell is an 8-year-old kid going to tell me I want to be a girl? So I'm going to say, oh, okay, you want to be a girl. I'm going to accommodate. Okay, so now you got other kids who say, I want to be Superman. You're going to let them dress as Superman all day, every day, go to school, sleep, and be Superman? Like, what are we doing? This doesn't make no sense mentally. It makes absolutely no sense. But now if you say something against it, oh, well, now the name calling comes. You're a bigot. You're this. You're that. Okay, well, I think you're nuts. I think you're a psychopath, and I think you're a pedophile and a freak. So now what? If we name calling, then we gonna name call. Oh, that's not Christ-like. Well, then I guess I ain't Christian today. It's like, they push every narrative to try to shut you up and try to corner you into backing down. And it's just, I'm not going to do that because you are violating children. Children are being violated, and that's where I draw the line. When it comes to kids, no, I draw the line.
Speaking of not backing down, the one video that I really liked about you, and this has nothing to do with your personal beliefs, religion, it's what's going on right now with this whole disease and this virus. I don't even like to say the name because you know what it does to the videos. So what we're dealing with right now, do you think it was an accident? Do you think it got here by accident?
Of course not.
Do you think it was a bioweapon? Do you think it was a bioweapon?
100%. Wuhan, this is the thing. If you ever study communism, they would have 20 years.
My family fought against that shit with everything we had.
So the way the system works is you do 15 to 20 years of demoralization. So whatever the structure of the country or the structure of the people is, you take 15 to 20 years to demoralize the system. And then after that, you cause chaos. And that's about 2 to 3 years of chaos. That's where the Antifa, BLM and stuff like that. But then you have crisis. And that usually is 2 to 3 months, right? And with that crisis, that's when people can take control. They had a set agenda that for 15 to 20 years, they would demoralize, and then they would bring chaos, which they tried with the Antifa and BLM, and then with COVID, that was supposed to be the crisis that implemented communism in the world order. Didn't work. That's why I started in March. Now we all.
So you don't think they're winning that battle? You don't think as of right now they're winning?
Oh no, they know they're not winning that battle.
What happens if they release a deadly version? A very deadly version.
No, listen. They could try to release anthrax to the world. You got to understand something about man. Man is going to survive. Man is going to come out on top. Man is going to fight back. And again, with COVID, they probably thought COVID was more deadly than what we realized it was. But when it came out, it didn't hit like it was supposed to. Why you think they lied about the numbers? Why you think they had to max out the numbers and expand and do all of this and do all of that? Because maybe COVID didn't hit the way they expected it to hit.
So you don't deny that there is a virus, but it's not as deadly as.
I think their plan was dubbed. I think they sent out a dud. They didn't know it, but in their minds, they had a set plan. These people believe in, I don't think people get that these Democrats really believe in this Marxist, a communist agenda. It's a religion to them.
You don't think anyone on the right's bad too, though? I mean, you don't think some of them have been compromised?
Of course they are.
I mean, listen, you were talking about children, right? For me, I got to be frank. On my side, I don't respect either side 100%. And one side, I'm having a very hard time even acknowledging their existence anymore, okay? But when you hear one of the most respected senators on the Republican side, John McCain, okay, as a guy I looked up to. It's a guy who helped my people in Kosovo. And his wife, you've seen the clip. I'm sure you've seen the clip. It's on C-SPAN. You could type it in right now. And she says they all knew about that sick person in that island. You understand what I'm talking about? You know who I'm talking about. She said they all knew, but for whatever reason, nobody did. That means that they all knew. He was one of the highest level Republicans, period. Now, I will say that doesn't mean Trump knew. Trump was never a part of the establishment.
Yeah.
So what I want to clarify is, at the end of the day, can you sit here and say that the Republicans are all great and God-fearing? And I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? The argument I'm trying to make here, I'm not trying to bash them. To me, I don't trust politicians.
Well,
to me, the one who seeks power is the one you should beware of.
I agree.
The one who seeks power.
I agree. What I'll say is this, though. When you look at the foundation of the Republican values of GP, originally, the original design of a Republican was to be for the people and to be conservative and to protect our God-given rights. Now, what has happened is you've had a swamp come. You've had people come that were perverted and had another agenda, and they violated even the own values they say they stood by.
Like rhinos. Yes. People that act like they're Republican, but just to get the seat.
Yes. So now this has happened, and now our eyes are starting to be open. And so for me, when you say you're a Republican, I'm expecting certain things out of you. Now it's my job to pay attention to what's going to come out of you, because there's a standard that you set. You say you're a Republican. So now if I hear you trying to co-sign or ping pong on life or ping pong on this or ping pong on that, you basically letting me know, okay, you not solid. You ain't really standing on the values that you say you standing on. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like a Democrat who is pro-life, anti-gay, pro-small business, all of this stuff like that. I'm gonna be like, bro, are you really a Republican? I mean, are you really a Democrat? Or are you a Republican? You sound like kind of conservative to me. You know what I mean? So I think what happens is we as a people need to realize that this is a people's war. And if we feel some type of way about how people are giving it up in leadership, we have an opportunity to say, listen, I'm going to run myself. If what I've noticed is when I want to get the job done, sometimes it takes me to do it. You know, if I feel sometimes it takes you to step up and be the change. And Trump was that man. He was man enough to say, you know what? This is going the wrong route. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to step up and I'm going to be the change. And that's why this is why I love Trump. Trump is a man. If he's not nothing. And the sad part is for people to not see him that way because he's white or because of the way he looks. If you can't see the grit of a man, you are ignorant. This man has grit of a man. Like, the homie lets his balls hang low. If he don't do nothing, Trump's going to make sure his balls hang low. And that's something that everybody has to respect. You may not like Trump, but you're going to respect him. These social media cats and all of that, they do all that on the sidelines. But when it comes to step into his face, they know they dealing with a grown man. And he ain't no dummy. You can't be a billionaire and be a dummy. Self-made. You can't do that. So what I love about Trump is he's man enough to say, you know what, there's a problem. Let me step up and be the solution to the problem. Puts his own money where his mouth is and does everything that he said he was going to do because he really genuinely stepped up to be for the people. It ain't like he power hungry. Homie, been rich. Been rich.
He took an L. He's a billionaire.
Been paid. I mean, this is Trump. We talking about Donald J. Trump. Rappers used to say, you know what I'm saying, trying to be like Trump. Listen, been paid. He been popping bottles in Mar-a-Lago, chilling, eating caviar, relaxing on private jets. This is nothing new. So if anybody was looking for power, wouldn't it be him? You know what I'm saying? When Obama got into office, Obama was maybe 1 million strong. He walked out 40 million strong. Trump walked in 6-7 billion deep. What are you talking? You know what I'm saying? People don't think. You know what I mean? So my thing is this. If ever there's a time to make a difference, we the people need to step up and be that difference. That's why we have a new organization that I'm going to be the vice president of, to where we're going to be pushing people to get into office. If you feel like there's a change and you're willing to step up and be that change, we'll get behind you, we'll support you, we'll promote you by all means, because that's what needs to happen. You know?
So you don't think it's the end just yet? We're in the crossroads. how we move from this point on maybe determines whether or not we're going to be here as a nation. You look at this maybe like a filter process. God's giving America one last chance. Is that a good way of describing it? So right now, basically, he's waking people up like, look, this is on your doorstep. You guys choose your path.
Basically.
And if you choose wrong, you're the next Babylon. You're the next Sodom and Gomorrah. You're the next Pompeii. You're the next, right?
You got to wake up. It's not wake up call.
You choose the wrong path. So you believe America still has a chance. And you do believe that Donald Trump will be the president come 2020, 2021, no matter what. Listen. You think we're seeing martial law, civil war? What do you think? Don't lie to me. Don't hold back on me.
I saw it happening when I was in the hospital. Well, I was in the hospital for 8 days. And like the thing is, for the first 2 or 3 days, I was drugged up really bad. I was kind of out of it. And I would have like these visions. I would be like in and out of these visions. And God would just be showing me so much. And the one thing he showed me, I'm not going to go into detail about it just yet, because I'm going to just wait for it to come to pass. I might have to speak on it. I don't know. He didn't tell me not to say anything about it. But what I'll say is this. I saw that Trump was going to be president. And God gave me so much peace about that. And I also saw so many altars coming down. I seen, altars like this. We see the physical portion of what's going on, but we don't realize how deeply spiritual this thing is. There's so much witchcraft and discord, and like there's a bondage on the church's mouth that they've accepted to where now they compromise rather than speak the truth. But there's a remnant of people that are going to rise up, and the workers, the laborers are coming. But Trump, he's more than just a president. He's a prophetic tool in God's army and what God is going to do. And I mean, people won't notice until we are in heaven and you see what God has done in full picture. But he's more than just a president. He's bigger than that. I'm not saying he's God, but God is using this man, kind of like a Moses, kind of like a David, or even a Gideon. Doesn't have to mean it's so big and so grand, but when God puts up you in position of power to make a difference and make history in this world, it's pivotal. Even Caesar, Nebuchadnezzar was someone that God used in a sense. Even Caesar, these are prominent people that go down in history. From
the spiritual perspective, they don't realize whether it's a good leader or a bad leader. Either way, that power came from the gift of God. He gave them that responsibility of either them saving themselves and their people, or destroying themselves and their people.
Period.
That no matter what, it's divinely appointed from the spiritual realm.
Is divinely appointed.
It's also known as the wisdom of God, that you might not understand what God is doing. His plan is beyond 4D chess. We're talking about the creator of the universe, Alpha, Omega, sees the future, all that type of stuff. You make your plans and he laughs at you, that type of knowledge, right? Do you feel that there's some type of agenda with this? Now we're hearing about Space Force and all. I mean, he's created something called Space Force. That was a little weird for me. I believe the aliens, and I've said this before on my show, are really demonic entities.
I believe that too.
From a parallel dimension.
Uh-huh.
And I believe I figured out how they're going to come into this world. And I believe it's through a machine called the Hadron Collider. And I believe, whether you want to call it alien, you could use whatever word they want. Well, we're going to call them demons, because that's what they are. They shapeshift, they change form.
Uh-huh.
We know the devil can do that. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. He can come in the form of a man, an animal. So if they come directly into our dimension, of course you're going to see crazy things you never thought you'd see, if that's all correct.
I studied that stuff, and I'll tell you this. I agree with you. I believe that they are trying to open a portal, and they in their mind are being convinced that it's aliens. But realistically speaking, Aleister Crowley was a self-proclaimed Satanist. He was supposed to be the Antichrist, 666, right? These people are going to open up a portal and bring demons from the underworld.
The bottomless pit.
They're going to be old Nephilim. They're going to be, the same people that were washed away in the flood, these demons that were washed away in the flood, they're basically calling them back up. So the reality is, though, we won't be here. But there's another thing, too, that they're doing, too. I also believe that when the rapture comes, millions of people are going to disappear off the face of the earth. No one's going to know how it happened. So what excuse are they going to give the world for implementing the one world order?
Aliens.
That would be the crisis. That's the crisis. That's why the rapture is so important, because that is the crisis. All over the world, people's family members, millions and billions of people just vanish. They're going to say it was the aliens. And because the people that were left behind don't know the word of the Lord, they're going to actually believe it.
They're going to be deceived.
It was the aliens. And so now, not only are they going to implement a one world order, but now even the project is going to be right at the point where they're going to ignite and it's going to work. But, man,
it's too much. I know. It's a lot.
There's so many prophecies on this, but this is a stake. A lot of people can't handle this information. But the fact that you know about this is kind of intriguing to me, because I studied that as well. So no, what you're saying is not foreign. It's so thick and people can't handle it, but it's real.
The whole reason why I have it here is, if everything you happen says the way it does, and we did our part. We warned people.
That's exactly right. That's
they
why
won't
we're here.
be fooled. They won't be. I'm telling you that something here is not. It doesn't smell right. It's not. It's very fishy. Okay, Stephen Hawking is a guy who didn't even believe in God, and he told them not to play with that type of technology. He even told them, you're going to open up the pits of hell. This is a guy that didn't even believe in God.
And hell exists, and there is a pit, and they're going to open it. And there will be war on this earth. There will be demons on this. Let me tell you something. The Nephilim, studies show that the Nephilim would eat human beings. They were cannibals. They were giant creatures that would eat people. These demons that come on this earth are going to be eating people, and they're going to look like these little creatures, but they're not aliens. They are demons, period. So they're already playing with fire. On top of that, you heard of CRISPR technology, where they're trying to change the DNA of the human, give you like eagle eyes, give you like a DNA that's shifting your DNA to where they're putting animal DNA in you. And people in Russia and China are studying this the most to make super soldiers. So soldiers with the speed of a wolf, eyes of a eagle, a smell of a dolphin, or ears of a dolphin. They're already doing this. But what people don't know is, when your DNA is disrupted, you basically lost your salvation. Because in the end times, it says when they put that chip in you, something in your DNA will shift, and the number will be 666, which means you will no longer belong to the Lord, and there will be no salvation for you. He can't collect you. It's more than just a chip to purchase and buy. It will shift your DNA, but they're already working on shifting people's DNA right now, just using animals. Okay, so a lot of this stuff I be studying, but it's so heavy, people can't handle it.
Will you take this shot if it's mandated?
No.
And why shouldn't someone take that shot, in your opinion?
Because you don't know what's in it. And why would you allow someone to just make you take the shot before you're even comfortable and you know what's in this shot? All to accommodate, your travels and things like that? No way. I don't know what this shot could do to my body. What if that shot is what changes my DNA into something that may cause no, hell no. I'm not taking that shot. No.
I think a lot of people feel the way you do. A lot of people, even them that are not Christian or religious, they don't want to take this shot.
Because something not right.
The whole scenario ain't right. If this thing would have came at a different time and not in such a politically charged climate, we might have all fell for it even easier. But the way it came and the timing and how and when, if you have a gut or a heart or a brain or all three of them, you see it even clearer. But some people just, I don't get it. Like, I've really always wondered how dictatorships rise, and I'm starting to see how they could, because people they're scared. Like, they just shut down in fear, and they want someone else to fight their fight for them. That's the problem. We have so many cowards around us that 1 out of 10 stand up, but 1 out of 10 is not enough.
Nope.
That's the problem.
If you see the problem, it's because you're probably the solution. You got to stand up.
In any event, I am above honored to be the first interview that you've given since the attempt on your life. You are very opinionated. You're strong. You stand for what you believe in. You have that right. You have that right as an American. And I will always give people the right to say whatever they want on my show, whether I agree with it or not, because that's their right as an American, even if I don't agree with their message. If they're my guest, I share what I want the world to understand about that person and what they stand for. And I want to thank you for taking time, and especially after everything you've been through, for keeping your word, because you are someone that's kept your word with me. And I am very thankful for that. And I look forward to speaking with you one day and meeting you in real life and really going into some things, because I think there's a lot we could talk about. And I think it would be an interesting cup of coffee.
I think so too.
Since I no longer drink.
Oh, well, it's good to know.
7.5 years I've been a good boy. So
okay.
I'm dry as a desert. Folks, the wonderful Bevelyn Beatty. I'll put her handle, her information. You can follow her. And I could tell you one thing. She's all over the place. She's fighting different kinds of battles. You will not be bored if you follow this woman, I promise you. Folks, what an amazing talk with Bevelyn Beatty. She's a fighter for what she believes in. She's here to tell you that no matter what you do in this life, as long as you have faith and air in those lungs, no matter how bad it's out there, you can always make a
comeback.
Bevelyn Beatty, check her out. Follow her on Instagram, social media, and her YouTube channel, and we will see her again by God's will. This is Bek Lover signing off. Bye, Beatty.
Bye.
Bek Lover.